Ukraine conflict, your guide to understanding Day 11. On Day 11 of the invasion, towns to the northwest of the capital Kyiv came under relentless bombardment as Russian forces continued their attempt to break through towards the capital. There was heavy fighting with Russian forces in Bucha, Hostomel, and Irpin, where barely a minute went by without an explosion, according to locals. At least 4 people, all from the same family, were reportedly killed as they tried to flee Irpin, after Russian mortar shells targeted a damaged bridge they were using. Russia has been striking civilian targets in Ukraine, including hospitals, nurseries and schools, the Ukrainian deputy prime minister said. Olha Stefanishina told the BBC that, after strong resistance from the Ukrainian army, there had been an enormous operation by Russia against civilians. She accused Russia of a terroristic plan, with attacks coming from the air and also by land. Fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II, says UN. The number of Ukrainian refugees continues to rise sharply, with more than 1.5 million people having fled the country in just 10 days, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency, the UNHCR. Filippo Grandi, the agency's High Commissioner, has called it the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. Poland has seen the largest number of refugees arrivals, having welcomed 922,400 since 24 February, according to Polish border guards. Mariupol evacuation halted again. A second attempt to evacuate people trapped in Mariupol collapsed after just a few hours, with both sides once again blaming each other for breaking the ceasefire. The International Committee of the Red Cross had hoped to start evacuating 200,000 people from the besieged port city. It says its teams began opening up the evacuation route from Mariupol to Zaporizhzhia before hostilities resumed. The Mariupol City Council said the plans had been aborted because Russian shelling had made the safe evacuation of civilians impossible. The city is now in its 5th day with no water, no power and no sanitation, while food and drinking water are fast running out. Protests across Russia see thousands detained. Nearly 4,000 people were detained at anti-war protests across Russia on Sunday, rights groups and Russian authorities say. Some 1,700 people were detained in Moscow alone, the RIA news agency reported, citing the Interior Ministry. The OVD Info rights group says people were detained in 53 cities across Russia, from St. Petersburg in the west to Vladivostok in the east. Although protests have become increasingly restricted in recent years, numerous rallies have taken place across Russia since the Ukraine invasion. More than 10,000 people have been detained since the war began, OVD Info says. Military couple marry on the front line. But in the midst of the horror, there have been moments of joy. At a military checkpoint near Kyiv, a Ukrainian couple have tied the knot. The mayor of Kyiv, former world heavyweight boxing champion Vitali Klitschko, was among the guests.